Okay, I'm going to spend just a little bit of time working with you on the perspective environment. I will work through you to construct a cube in 1-point perspective, and then we'll get you started on a 2-point perspective cube as well. So in your PowerPoint entitled Perspective, on the 7th slide, it starts the instructions for constructing this cube. First of all, to establish a scale of 1 inch equals 1 foot, the thing that I do primarily is just to develop a grid, and that's real easy to do. I'm just going to do a show grid, and I'm going to go up to View and Show Rulers. And I'm going to take and restart this 0 point at the very top left edge of my document, and you'll see that my grid is set up for 1 inch increments. You can set up your grid as well under Preferences and Guides and Grids. You can develop what grid you want in terms of color and so on and so forth. Alright, so there's the grid. Now we're to draw the horizon line or eye level. The artist determines the high or low. So I'm going to set it right about here. I'm going to get the line segment tool, and I'm just going to click. Let's do it a little bit. I'm going to hold down the Shift key to make sure that it stays at a straight line. I'm going to make sure the black stroke is seen. I'm going to increase that by 2 points. And I think I'm going to do that at about 3.5 points. I'm going to make the horizon line. I'm going to take the Type tool, and I'm going to identify this as the horizon line. And then we're going to locate the central vanishing point, and this is the middle of the horizon line in 1-point perspective. Alright, so now we are going to click on this line, and you'll see the middle of that is, well, first of all, the line is at 11, so the middle would be 5.5, correct? And so we're going to draw a little, make sure there's 5.5. We're going to draw a little ellipse. I'm going to fill it with black. I'm going to make sure that it's at 5.5, so I'm just going to do 5.5 and hit Tab, and you'll see that it will jump to that point. I'm going to go back up here, and I'm going to find my color, or my swatches panel, and I'm going to fill that with black. It looks a little big for that. I've also lost my tools here someplace, and if this happens to you where you've lost your panels or lost your tools, you can go back up here to Essentials on the just right at the very top of the document and say Reset Essentials. And then it will put in all of the various points and tools and whatnot that you need to have in order to create your artwork. I'm going to again select that. I'm going to bring up the window. I'm going to bring up the transform tool, because remember we want that at the X point at 5.5. So I'm going to do 5.5 and hit Tab. Perfect. And then I am going to just move that down so it's just a little bit closer to the center. And this is again called the central vanishing point, so I'm going to get my Type tool and identify it as a as a central vanishing point. Here. All right, and again, here's the central vanishing point, and that belongs in the middle of your horizon line, which at this point, our horizon line is 11 inches long, or 11 miles. No, 11 feet, sorry. Our scale is 1 inch to 1 foot. And then our central vanishing point is the middle of that, again, which is 5.5. Now we want to locate the special vanishing points left and right, and these are determined by the station point of our observer, and the station point is 4 inches or feet from the horizon line. So here's the horizon line, and we're going to click and drag this to start our starting point, our 0 here, and we're going to go down 4 inches or feet from the horizon line to establish the station point. We're going to again get the line tool, hold down your shift, and we're going to click and drag to develop our station point. Now the special vanishing points left and right have to be 4 inches from the central vanishing point in order to develop the cone of vision. So I am going to, first of all, I'm going to come over here. That's just driving me crazy. And I'm going to identify this here as the station point. And then we are going to lightly mark 1 inch intervals along our horizon line in order to identify 4 inches from the central vanishing point. And I'll be right back to do that. I'll show you how I'm going to do it initially, and then I won't have you sit through the entire time while I'm doing it, but I'm going to go up to Window, and I'm going to go down to Guides. I'm sorry, Image View and Guides. I'm going to make sure that the guides are shown, which they will be. And then I'm going to click and drag a guide at each one of these and drop the guide right at the 1 inch in 1 inch intervals along the horizon line. You'll see these guides. And then once the guides are developed, you're going to make little tick marks along each one of these to create an inch to identify where the inches are. So I'll be right back as I finish this out. All right, and now you'll see that we have the little 1 inch units of measure marked along our central vanishing, or along our horizon line. Now what we need to do is go to the next point, and we've already created the ground line at the same place as the station point is, and so we are going to go on to the next one, which is lightly mark vertical units of measure from the ground to the horizon line and above that conform to the scale. So I'm going to, again, where my tools go, All right, and again, this is the slide 8, the second bullet point, lightly mark vertical units of measure from ground to horizon line and above that conform to the scale, which is 1 inch equals 1 foot. So first we're going to develop the vertical measuring line. I'm going to hold down the shift. I'm going to make sure that stroke is black and a little bit heavier so we can see it. And then again, doing the same thing that we did here, mark units of measurement in 1 inch increments. So I'll be back in a moment as soon as I complete that. All right, now that we have all the units of measure drawn, we are going to establish our cone of vision. And the cone of vision is going to pass, the center will be the central vanishing point, and then the circumference was going to pass through the special vanishing points left and right. And we are going to do this, first of all, like this. We're going to get the ellipse, and I am going to just click it right there. I'm going to say 4 inches and 4 inches. Click OK. And we are to have the center of that pass through the central vanishing point, which I'm going to say that's the circumference, or the diameter, needs to be 8 inches rather than. I realize that after I look at it. And there we go. The cone of vision stretches above the horizon and off the page layout, but the bottom does need to hit the station point, and this is the special vanishing points left and right. Although I didn't mark those, and I certainly will now. That's 3, 4, yep. All right. And I'll be right back. Okay, there we go. There's the special vanishing points left and right, and I will mark those right here. This is a special vanishing point left. And over here is a special vanishing point right. Now this cone of vision, I am going to select that, and in order to make that a little bit less, I want the cube to be the thing that you see first in terms of the visual hierarchy. So I'm going to knock back this stroke by, see if I can develop a dotted line here someplace. I'm going to bring up the stroke panel. And we are going to do a dashed line, and I'm going to make that, I guess that color's all right, I'll leave it at that. And so there's the cone of vision, which what the cone of vision means is that anything that's drawn inside the cone of vision is going to be in perspective, be accurate in perspective. Anything outside this cone of vision is going to be skewed. So if you, when you draw your front face of your cube, you want to make sure that you draw it inside the cone of vision. And the way that we're going to do that is we're going to draw the front face of the cube. It's going to be an exact square sitting on the ground line. So about the only place we can sit on the ground line. I'm going to bring it up here so you can see how we draw it a little bit better. So first I'm going to get the rectangle tool, and I'm going to click once, And we're going to make that square 2 inches by 2 inches and see if that's an act. Okay, there we go. And we're going to make that square in solid rather than in dashed lines. And we're going to make that black rather so we can see that. All right, now that you have that drawn, we're going to, if you go over to the instructions, we draw, I'm going to move this down just a little bit. Now the next point is to draw lines of convergence from each corner of the face of the cube to the central vanishing point. So we're going to again get straight lines, and from each face of the cube, oh geez, that's off. Oh, for heaven's sakes, I can't seem to get that right on there. I'm going to change these to dotted lines as well so that they're not quite so dark. Select all of those lines of convergence that I just drew. I'm going to go back up here to the stroke panel, and I'm going to make those a dashed line. And then we're going to draw a diagonal measuring line, a DML, from either bottom corner of the cube face to the opposite special vanishing point. So let's pick over here, and we're going to again take the straight line, and we're going to click over here, get it right on that corner, and click and drag here to the special vanishing point left. And I'm going to change that color so we can distinguish that diagonal measuring line from the lines of convergence that are going back to the central vanishing point. So let's change that to red. All right, now the point where the diagonal measuring line intersects the line of convergence for the base of the cube. Oh geez, let's go back up here. Indicates the true depth of the cube. So that defines where the back face of the cube begins to rise vertically. So the point where the diagonal measuring line, which is this, intersects the line of convergence for the base of the cube face, which is right here, indicates the true depth of the cube. And then this also defines where the back of the cube face begins to rise vertically. So we are going to come back over here. We're going to get a line. Hold down your shift key to make sure it stays vertical. We don't want that a dashed line. We want that at the back face of the cube, and we want it black. I want to continue to draw right from there, but it keeps wanting to change it. So I'm going to go back and get the line tool. Now that I clicked off of it, that's going to allow me to draw from there. Hold down my shift key. And there you go. There's the true back of the cube. And measures the true distance of the cube in perspective. And there you go. Now the one thing that I did not put here was the side line, but other than that, we're pretty much right where the example shows you as well. So hopefully that will help you at least set up the perspective environment. I will save this out, and then rather than redrawing the perspective environment again, the next one I'll show you how to create a 1 point, a cube in 2-point perspective, and I'll be right back.